what should I start with? And the two things that came up right away in response to this are questions that I want to pose to you. Sorry, it's not the recipe. Although I do have a version of that that I'll take us through in priestess school. It's not like a recipe the way probably we want a recipe, but it is a kind of guided journey. But the two questions that I'll pose to you today are, number one, what is your relationship with uncertainty? And what I mean by this, or why this felt important to me, is because we kind of live in a world that has like manufactured and sold to us what I believe is a version of, or I guess an illusion of certainty, that, you know, kind of has built these expectations or norms of perceived predictability about, like, you know, you go to work and you will get paid. That sort of routinized way of relating to the world. And the reality is, like, there is nothing certain about being alive. Like, all of it is up in the air until we die. So I guess that is the certain thing. Like, if we're alive, we will die. But there's a lot that's built around our culture in trying to hold out the reality of that, trying to hold out that the fact of, like, death being the only certainty and everything else being completely uncertain. I'll just give you the example of, like, coming on live right now. I was, you know, kind of hoping, hyping myself up for it and, like, trying to, you know, figure out how to make it easier on myself or, like, feel like doable. And I was realizing I was trying to get a sense of security, a sense of, like, having a known outcome and prepare in a way that could kind of ensure that for me. And after, you know, kind of going through it a few times, I realized that this was happening. Like, I was behaving in a way that was, like, aiming towards this fantasy of predictability or an outcome, like I want to make sure I'm putting it out there so that everyone's gonna, you know, I'm gonna get all the likes and everyone's gonna like what I'm saying and whatever. And the reality is, I don't know what the outcome of this will be. We don't know the outcome of anything that we will do. That is the nature of risk. That is the nature of creativity. And the sooner you can kind of accept that in a conscious way and in a deep way, the sooner you can relate to that in a, you know, maybe a more neutral or even a playful way, the sooner you'll be able to kind of recognize that fear response when it comes up, or recognize the resistance to uncertainty, and you know, not make yourself wrong for that, but just let that be. Because the other part of that uncertainty dynamic is that, you know, uncertainty is kind of the doorway, or the other side of uncertainty is the, like, infinite realm of possibility that is that, like, sort of primordial soup of the unmade or the unmanifest world, or the kind of ground of possibility of what can come into existence. And by our, you know, kind of God participation in creativity, in creation, we are pulling from that, you know, pregnant void, if you will, of possibility, of uncertainty, and bringing something into form. So even though, you know, uncertainty can feel like an adversary, and sometimes there's something generative in that, we can also relate to them. I'm going to say them, like it's an energy, a being, as a, you know, as an ally, or as a playmate, or as a co-creator. And once I kind of, I don't know that I made a switch, but once that kind of gradually sunk in for me, I I still work with it, but like it's helped me have a little more resilience. It's helped me kind of let go of some of the things I've really clung to as sources of quote unquote stability or predictability or certainty. So that's the first question I wanted to offer. The second question I'll pose is, what is your relationship with nourishment? And that may sound or seem kind of like, what's the point of that or something, or I don't know. But really for me, this has been, actually, I think I had more consciousness around this starting out, but less, maybe even less skill. Because similarly in like, as like descendants of the colonial world, particularly as someone of European descent, there, my ancestral sort of points of connection to nourishment have really been stripped down and siloed into the institutions I've been trained to rely on for my sustenance. And this is kind of a pervasive pattern in like our kind of modern colonial capitalist world. Like we've been trained to rely on only certain forms and versions and like locations for sustenance. And my suspicion and what I've kind of learned in my own practice, my own journey, is there are a lot more access points to nourishment, to support, than we're even aware of. That maybe we even have kind of the skills or the awareness to draw on. And so in sort of the foundational pieces of priestess school, and where I would advise anyone to start, is to start with what you already have. Like start with a sort of, what is it called? Like an inventory of what's already present, what you already have, and to then kind of widen the channels there in the places that are already existent, in the ways you're already connected. We widen the channels there. And this is maybe the even harder part or more less practiced part. We build the skill of receiving, of receptivity, as a way to be in that web of connection, to kind of widen our awareness and ability to be nourished in a deep way, in a sustaining way, in a non-extractive, very organic way. That's really a part of our innate sort of organism. My friend Shante uses the word organismic, like our organismic way of relating and being in reciprocity with the world around us. So we work on both recognizing and appreciating and kind of expanding those channels of connectivity and nourishment as a foundational practice, or sort of just first step for being able to take those sustainable risks with uncertainty, like into unpredictability, not with a sense of like, I know how this is going to turn out, but hopefully with a little deeper sense of like, I'll be okay, right? Like I can take this risk, and there's a ground to return to when I need to. If anyone listened to my little Caterpillar Oracle podcast, that's kind of the story that I felt like Caterpillar was telling me. Like, you're gonna land somewhere, and having a good enough baseline of nourishment and being able to connect and draw from the channels of nourishment that are already there, that are already present for each of us, really builds that muscle of sustainable risk. So that is going to be essential in pursuing this priestess path, however that looks for you, because you're going to be doing something different than you have done before, something outside of routine or outside of the norm, or kind of pushing the edge of what you have imagined was possible for yourself, or maybe you've imagined but felt afraid or blocked or not sure how to make that leap. So those are my 2 questions I would offer to anyone considering kind of stretching out in your spiritual path and your spiritual leadership, and how you're wanting to grow and expand your priestess calling. So my action for you right now is to just take those 2 energies, those essences, and if you can right now, like just sit with them for a moment, like really feel them in your body. Really listen for the sensations, the memories, the, like the quality that it evokes for you. How does uncertainty feel in your body? How do you relate to uncertainty right now? And how do you feel and experience nourishment in your body? Where is that already alive? How are you relating to that? And I'd love for you, if you want, to drop those in the chat. Like, I'd love for you to let me know how you are relating to those well. And maybe well, or maybe struggling, or somewhere in between. And if you are curious about priestess school, if you are curious in developing, skills of relating well to uncertainty and nourishment, so that you can bring your, kind of sacred calling more enfleshed in the world, more incarnate, if you want, just put a note in the chat or message me and I will send you more details. The beta version, so that's like the kind of experimental first version of Priestess School, is starting this fall. And we're doing early enrollment now, which will be the most affordable price that will be made available. So yeah, just put something in the chat below or message me and I can send you more details. All right, there's my scary thing for the day. Cheers.